If you watched this video and didn't understand it, then this is the follow-up you've been waiting for. DIY Pearl Bralette Cami top is my most popular video, but it's also my most controversial. If you go to the comments, people complain that I did not properly explain the tutorial part of it. There you'll see stuff like, I was completely confused from the intro, I completely lost, I don't know what's going on. There are some practical questions like, what beading string did I use? Or what size beads did I use? How many? And then there's also people who just demanded that I make a new video, and I'm not gonna make a new video because even though that video is 5 minutes long, this project took me hours and hours and hours to make. And I already have one, I don't need another one, so I'm not gonna make a new one. But I do wanna, in this video, watch that video along with you and fill in any gaps and explain any instruction more clearly if it's too vague. So hopefully you'll be able to make this project with confidence once you've seen this video. Okay, I have my overhead camera set up, so while we're watching the video together, I'll pause and demonstrate anything I need to with this camera. This is a chill craft. There is a little math involved. Hi everyone, my name is Amy. I'm a multi-passionate creative and online educator, and today I'm going to show you how I made this pearl top. I've been seeing this around the internet for a while and I thought I could make that, so I did. If you're interested in seeing how, come craft with me. To start with, you need a rough idea of the width and length you want for your top. I found it helpful to draw a life-size diamond shape. Okay, so this is the same plan that I have in the video. And as you can see, this one is outlined in red because I was marking what I had worked on as I worked on it. So I basically did this row by row, but let's go back to the plan itself. So it helps if you know roughly what size bead, and it is very important to know how wide your top is and how long it is, not including the straps. This looks weird when it's laid out, but basically this is a side seam, this is a side seam. So if you ignore this bit, it just looks like a cami top that you'd wear. The way we're gonna make this is if you cut down the center back and it opened up like this. So this is the center back, this is the center back. These bits up here are where the straps will be, and they'll hook onto the back peaks like that. So if you figure out, well, say you wanted this to be, I don't know, like 15 inches wide, then it would be 30 inches total for this. Now, you also need to decide how big you want each of these diamonds to be. And that's just personal preference. For me, I don't think these numbers are right, but this is the actual, yeah, this is the actual size of the diamond. And this is 1 3/4 by 3 inches. So if you want your top to look just like my top, that's the dimensions for that. I drew this life size because this will tell me exactly how many beads I need for each section. You have these beads that go here, and I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and then you have connecting beads. These are the beads where this string will go through and this string. So the way I did the orange and the blue, hopefully that makes sense. If you want, you can draw a bunch of diamonds in this exact actual size, and then have your beading laid on top of it so that you can map it out as you go. You can see exactly what part you're doing. If you find having a small diagram is too confusing, I just used the small diagram because I was able to be like, all right, I'm working on this section, and just mark it with pen as I went, and then I didn't get confused. It is a slow craft, so it's hard to mess up in that way because you have to take your time with it anyway. But hopefully that makes sense. Based on the actual size of my beads, so I could measure it and then calculate how many diamonds I need horizontally and vertically to meet my chosen dimensions. Okay, so this is how you do it. If I know that, let's see, I have some math up here, apparently 19 inches wide in the front and 16 inches wide in the back. So that told me if I have 19 inches wide in the front, and I know this needs to be 19 inches, and my diamond is 1 3/4 inches, then all I have to do is divide 19 by 1 3/4 to figure out how many diamonds. And if it doesn't fit, if that is not a neat math equation for you, you can just round up. And then I did the same thing for the back, and then I just added the width of the diamond that I needed for the back. I hope that makes sense. I'm not a mathematician, but it seems pretty clear to me when I'm explaining that. I hope that makes sense to you. If that's going way over your head, you should just like start beading and drape it on yourself and figure it out. Or perhaps this craft is not for you, because it does take math, and there's a lot of like figuring out. I also like leave room in my projects for figuring things out as I go, and I hope you do the same, because sometimes just doing it makes more sense than like me explaining it to you on paper. So make sure you factor in straps as well. I also highly recommend drawing a pattern or map of your design as it would look laid flat, so you can keep track of what you've made as you go. I got a bunch of vintage photos. You can also use this map that you've made and this diagram, an actual size diagram with how many beads per diamond, to calculate how many beads you need for your project. It is gonna like make your brain explode a little bit, because like, for example, this diamond overlaps with this diamond, so you don't need to count these beads because you've already counted them in this diamond. And it gets kind of confusing. So just get a lot of beads. I would say buy as many beads as you can afford. I didn't use all of the beads that I bought for my project. It's always good to have extra. Pearl beads on Etsy for $20. You can get similar beads in a craft store, but I try to buy vintage or secondhand supplies when I can. For the string, I'm just using beading string, which is pretty sturdy and ties good knots. You'll also want... Okay, the beading string I used for this project, I don't have anymore, so I don't know the exact size. I will say that it was a little, I think it was a little too thick for the project, because I could really only get 2 strands comfortably within the bead, and it's nice when you have a little bit more flexibility for how many strings you can get in there, because the more strings you thread your bead with, the stiffer it will be. It won't have a nice drape. It'll get kind of like stiff. So I just bought some new beading thread, and this stuff is 0.5 millimeter. I would say, so the beads that I have, these were bought secondhand, so it didn't tell me the millimeter size. I'm gonna guess the opening on these is about 1 millimeter. Can't even, yeah, that's about 1 millimeter. So if you have a bead like that, that's 1 millimeter opening, you want the string to be, I would say like probably a 0.4 is better. This is a 0.5, but I think a 0.4 would probably have been better. And it will, you want silk, because silk has strength and it also knots really well. You want something that's gonna knot tightly. And then the beading needle, so this silk that I bought, this is the silk that I bought, and it comes with a needle that's attached to the silk, which is nice, except if you cut it, then you don't have a needle. And then also it was kind of like all janky and not super great for threading. So I was just buy your, these needles are not expensive. So just buy your own needle. To use a beading needle, which is fine and flexible and will make stringing the beads way easier. It doesn't really matter how many beads per diamond you use, as long as you're consistent. Each side of my diamond has 8 beads, not counting the 4 beads that make up each corner of the diamond. These beads are where I intersect my threads to form the net. Okay, so I also made a blog post where I have a lot more diagrams. If you were like, that's fine, but I need more diagrams, I will link this post in the description. I go through the difference between a body diamond and a hem diamond, and I made a diagram with the exact number of beads I used for each of those. So I hope that's clear. I also put up a diagram of this map that I drew that's on here, so you can copy that exactly if you want, if you think you're the same size as me and you're like, I'm just gonna do exactly what you did. I also tried to show how I went about each section with these different colors, the blue, red, and yellow, to hopefully make it clear. And also I showed where I knotted them, because it's hard to know exactly how long a string to use. It's good to just do as long a string as you can stand. I think in the video I did 60 inches for each strand. You could calculate this if you're good at math. You could figure out exactly the length you need. But I think I did 60 inches and that's pretty good. Please check out the blog post. I think it's pretty clear, but again, hopefully this video will supplement any gaps. Okay, so here, I didn't say this in the video, but I used washi tape on the ends of the strand. So it's good to just have a strand of pearls on the go as like a starting point. And then I secured it with some washi tape on the end. This one I'm holding in my hands, you wouldn't want it like this. You would want a much longer tail, but this is just to show you here. And so just have a bunch of like pearls on the go, because this will form part of your hem. We're gonna start at the bottom of the map and work our way up. So basically in the video, I'm starting at like, let's say like here. I think I was starting like here. And this is the strand in my left hand. And now I'm threading through a connector bead. So this, I believe this is like 15 beads for this loop. And then the 16th bead, I'm gonna put my needle through and thread some beads onto it. And then where I left off there, let's see if I can just do it right now. See, this takes so long to thread the beads, which is why I'm not doing the whole project all over again. Another tip is that if your beads come on a strand, leave them on the strand, because it is easier to thread your needle or to needle your beads. Okay, so I'm gonna count 5, 10, 15, 16. So the 16th bead is my connector bead. So that's the thing. I'm just gonna thread that bead. And then I've just made one scallop. I think I did more than 15, but you get the idea. Okay, so this is one scallop, this is another scallop, and then this part is going to start to form a diamond. So it's getting all tangled. Okay, this part will start to form a diamond, and I'll make the diamond by threading through another connector bead, which will pull it, and then a connector bead up here, which will pull it this way, and so on and so on. So here I'm forming the right side of the diamond, so I'm connecting it at the top of the diamond. And it will just look like a oval shape, but once I connect the sides, as I'm filling in more diamonds, then it will look like a diamond. At the hem of the top, I wanted the half diamonds to form a scallop design, so I used 15 beads for each curved section. I found the easiest way to approach this was to work on one diagonal column at a time. Ideally, you would keep your thread as long as possible so you can ultimately incorporate the tails into the straps, but the holes in my beads were only big enough to fit 2 or 3 strands into them, so I ended up having to tie a knot at the end of each section. To secure a tail, I pulled it through at least one intersecting bead and then tied a double knot and threaded the tail into 8 or so beads before trimming. So you can see I'm using pliers because once you get a couple strands in there, it's hard to pull an additional strand through because it does get stiff. I don't know why I took all the beads off of those because it is easier to, oh my cat. It is easier to thread beads when they're already on a strand. Okay, so here you can see the map come to life basically. It is easier if you just do it. I know it looks strange, but once you start like intersecting beads, you can see the shape kind of come to life. And if you're not completely positive on the size you want, you can just start doing this. You can start bead weaving and put it on yourself and then just see like how it's fitting. So I'm working on the back in this next section of the video, and I will say it does get a little confusing when you're working on the back. It got a little confusing for me because you haven't connected, this is the center back, this is the center back, you haven't connected them yet. So once you start filling in these diamonds, it does become kind of a mindfuck and you can't really figure out what you're doing. So basically you want this section to fit like a puzzle piece into this section. I don't think I stopped like marking my progress eventually on there, but say you have like these cut out diamonds, this negative space, this you'll need to fill in with this when you connect the center backs to each other. And I'm afraid there is no good way to explain it. You just need to do it. So I apologize for that. But I think if you have a dress form or you have someone you can try this on, it will make more sense to you. That's just the way it goes. After you've gotten the main body of the top done, it's helpful if you can put it on a dress form or have someone hold it up on you so you can measure how long to make the straps. The diamond columns that form the peaks at the top should have extra long tails that you can use as your straps. This is where the most stress will be placed, so ideally your knot will be well past the shoulder. So if you look at, if you can see all these threads dangling down, that's where I stopped a section, thread it through the last connector bead that gets to, let's say like here. So once you get to the neckline, I threaded it through one more connector bead, then I knotted it, and then I threaded the tail up into some more beads just to hide the tail nicely. And then I let that extra long piece dangle. But you would thread those tails in and then trim them. But that's what all that is on the back. Shoulders and into the back panel. And here is the finished piece. Let me know in the comments if you'll be trying out this project. I really like how flexible the sizing is, so it's easy to tailor it to whatever you need, and the piece itself has a lot of drape and stretch to it. I ended up adding an X shape to the back to hold the straps better, but otherwise I'm really happy with how this came out. So until next time, keep in touch and happy crafting. That's all I got. I hope that that was more helpful for you. I hope I was able to answer any questions throughout the video. If you still have questions, you could still leave me a comment on this video and I'll try to answer as best I can. Do check out the blog post because there are some good diagrams in there. If after all of this you still have no idea what's going on with this project, I think maybe just move on with your life because I'm not going to revisit it again. And this is really the best I can do for this particular project. But thank you so much for taking another chance and watching this follow-up video. Best of luck with this project. Until next time, keep in touch and happy crafting.